They say if you want to hide the truth, put it in a book. And in the generation we're living in now, that couldn't be any more true. Anyway, we're going to get into it. So here, couldn't find this fella. Anyone recognizes him, put his name in the comments, but, you know. I did find this guy on the left. His name is Mick Jagger, but with a J, Jagger, and the notorious, disgusting man, Bill Clinton. We all know of his crimes and what he's done. There's some other images here that I'm not going to click on, but you can probably zoom in and infer what's going on. But, this is just some of the things that went on the island, and not just the island. They had parties all over the world in secret locations, right under our noses, and this is the type of stuff they do. That is a man, and probably a man a lot of us may know. We may have seen this man on TV growing up or in a music video, but we would never believe that these people that we grew up watching and that we love so much would ever be capable of these things. But you'll be surprised at the skeletons people have in their closet. Here's one. Something I've noticed as I've looked through these files is people speak to Jeffrey with such reverence and as if he's some sort of god, a god amongst men. As you can see here, this is a very strange conversation to have or send to someone, as if he's their savior, which I'm sure a lot of people in his organization looked at him as, because Epstein did a lot of things beyond his sexual crimes. He was a scientist. Here's another one. This one, dolphin effects on human. Research with dolphins. It's illegal to communicate with dolphins and whales. Here, someone's talking about doing research on humans' sympathetic nervous system response during dockside interactions with dolphins. Pause and read if you need to. So these two here are connected. This is all in the files, by the way. Everything I'm going to show you is directly from the government website and the files that they have released to the public. So all of this was in Epstein's collection, because his entire thing was a blackmail operation to expose powerful figures of government all over the world for blackmail, so the Israel government could use against that government and control the country. Simple as that. So if you see here, like I said, this was in Epstein's possession. The best way to understand a monster is to read about it. This is exactly who he was. And he's reading about his own self, understanding the different layers and psyche of a person like that. So it's a very twisted thing to do. Very sickening. So this is another thing which made me very upset to read and see. Pause this and read if you need. But this entire thing is basically a breakdown on a child's psyche and how certain things and certain trauma and certain responses can shape a child, which will then shape the adult. And what disturbed me about this is that this information, which is so obvious and easy to understand about children, but as you see in society, most parents don't think this way. Most parents don't act on these beliefs and don't understand that if your child goes through this and this, they're going to react a certain way and live that way. And this really resonated with me because we were all children at one point, and we all remember how we were treated, and we all remember how we had to deal with being treated that way. And a lot of us are still living that way from how we were treated as a child because we never got the proper way to express those feelings. So it's a lot of people are trauma adults, I'll call it. Okay, so next here we're going to have a series of text messages. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, this is a woman sharing the things that she's learned and uncovered from someone else that was inside of basically the Epstein circle and things like that. You can read it here, of course. They need to do a deeper investigation into this, and if it is true, then they were harvesting adrenochrome, which look into that. Look that up if you don't know what that is, and organs there. And it was set up like the underground temple. I just want to highlight that because a lot of the things that these people are doing, where they're meeting, is underground, hidden from the public eye. Because no one's going to go look underground. No one even thinks to guess it's underground. But a lot of these things, a lot of these ritual sites, a lot of these satanic symbols and temples, and things like that are underground. Simple as that. And pause to read these again. Here, this is just a continuation of the last one. You're talking about satanic rituals. Ignore that. Yeah, she said that was a spelling mistake. A weird spelling mistake, though. But like I said, here she says, I was told that the temple was cemented in, so you cannot have any access to the underground temple. And a fake door was painted on the building. So just imagine how many of these buildings, churches, abandoned apartments that we walk past every day that are actually secret satanic temples and ritual grounds where children and innocent children and people are being abused. So it's just something to think about. She's talking about more continuation of the conversation. Here's something else I thought was interesting. Yes, I know survivors that witnessed children being blank to future control and terrify them into submission. PTSD, mind control. Mind control is real. If you condition a person with fear, violence, propaganda, you can make that person do whatever you want. Again, pause and read these if you need to. Here's another one. Here seems to be a picture of some ritual they were doing. Pause and zoom in if you need. I can zoom in. Okay. So, looks like there's people sitting down. There's no telling what really is going on in these places. So next I'm going to go over a sensitive topic for a lot of people, especially with the new Michael Jackson movie that just came out. But we need to understand that the people that we've grown up with and the people we love and idolize and worship can be really evil people. The best, the people that can hide things the best are the people with a lot of money and resources. Just look at Epstein, for example. He had money and resources, and he was able to get away with all these things for so long, and no one would have guessed. There's probably plenty of people that saw Epstein just walking through the street and would never have guessed he would be involved in any of these things. But it's just the way it is. So just keep that in mind. Okay, this is something else, but like I said, you can pause and read that. Here. So this is the one talking about Michael Jackson. Pause and read. I'm not really gonna, you know, just because it's a sensitive topic, but I mean, just see it for yourself, Just read it and see it for yourself. And, what are the odds that Trump has the same attorney as Michael Jackson did during his trial? So just read that, and yeah. And the magazine this is talking about is right here, which I'm not going to click on it. There's very sensitive photographs on this magazine, but it shows exactly what this is talking about. So whether you believe it or not, I cannot control that. But we have to understand that Jeffrey Epstein's entire job was a blackmail psyop to control foreign nations. You can't blackmail someone with false information. You just can't. Then it's not blackmail, it's just a lie, right? These aren't lies. Why would Epstein lie about all this? There's no point in lying. If I'm going to blackmail you, I'm going to use something that's true, because then I know for a fact that you're going to do exactly what I want you to do. But just keep that in mind. Okay, next. This one I thought was extremely concerning. So pause to read this for yourself. But so I actually remember the QAnon phase that was going around before Trump got into office, and they were saying a lot of good things and drain the swamp and deep state and all this stuff. And from someone that doesn't know how things really work, hearing that for the first time, you think you have an ally. But sometimes things are too good to be true. But I'm not going to go over all of this. I just wanted to point out something I thought was very interesting. So, first, honestly, this one here. Currently, President Trump has many supporters that are affected by Q, and he does not denounce them, but he uses them for a vote. I can provide further information of someone who may be valuable that lives in Texas that distributes Q type information. She is infected with the mind cold, but distributes. That is a very specific thing to say, a mind cold. It's very interesting. So these next ones is, if anyone can find this woman, has anyone ever seen this woman, knows her name, knows her platform, she she's a criminal. She's hurt children. It says it right here, you know. Here she is admitting she harmed her child, blank, to please Epstein. This is disgusting, especially considering I'm close friends with one blank recruited. Oh, looks like an Asian version of The Ring. Just saying, I knew Epstein very well. Not his type. This monster brought him fresh meat. She was never the meat he desired. She profited from the suffering of young girls. Her soul is dead. So if anyone can track down this, which I'm guessing she's an Asian woman, please find and name her. That would be great. Actually, we're gonna skip over that one. So this is this is Disney sent this to Epstein. You know, Epstein had private, secret access to different Disney locations. What does that mean? It means he could go in through the back, show his past, go in through the back. There's no records of him ever being at the park. And he can do whatever he pleases, you know. Guys, don't be fooled. These organizations that claim to be to protect children and are trying to entertain your children are the main ones that are serving your children up to predators like Jeffrey Epstein, as you can see. This is from Disney themselves, which you can say, oh, they may not know, you know, he's just a customer. That's fine. But, you know, he's getting discounted tickets directly to his email, you know, which I'm sure they knew who he was. I'm sure he was a big spender and a big supporter to their cause, you know, so just saying, keep that in mind. Here's another one. He's talking about Disney. You know, they went to Disney a lot. A lot. You know, this one's doesn't show who's it's from or to whom, but whenever it's like this, I can kind of already guess who it's for. But, you know, hotels right in the park, you know, 5-star service for this predator. This next one here, I was going through the files and there was a link. And when you click that link, it sent you to this Chinese satellite website. And it showed this image. So I don't know the significance of it, but I just wanted to take a picture of that, you know. If it was important to Epstein, then it means something. Okay, what do we have next? Oh, okay. No. Okay, so this one is also very interesting. A letter from David Blaine, of all people, the famous magician. He's trying to help someone get their immigration application through. So it's very interesting to see his name pop up in all this. Like I said, you can pause and read. So yeah, very interesting. Another thing I think is interesting is that they have redacted this a lot. You'll see this tiny redactions. You know, it's not long enough to be a full name, so it must be an abbreviation for a name. I wonder what abbreviation they wouldn't want to be all over these files. I guess we'll never know. Okay. Next up, let's see what we got. Oh, yes, this one was about them experimenting with different frequencies. Premature babies benefiting from music get backing from Harvard University and the Jeffrey Epstein Foundation. Again, Jeffrey Epstein was a scientist. He ran a lot of human experimentations. This is one using frequency to see how it can affect the body, because frequency, light, sound is everything. It's what reality is created on. Here's another one. This made me laugh. It's what your clone would do. They talk about cloning a lot in these files. Cloning is real. There are people among us that were not birthed from a mother and a father. They were grown in a lab. That is facts. So, when someone, a mysterious stranger, is sending to Epstein, that's what your clone would do. Does Epstein have a clone? Palm Beach Pete? That's just a theory, after all. Um, Here's another one. This one, pause and read if you need. This one basically, this is a victim talking about how Epstein blackmailed her mother, and that's how he got into her life and was able to abuse her. And him and his associates were able to, get away with abusing her for so long. And that's what these predator type people do. They go after vulnerable people, people they know they can extort, because people are afraid to go to jail, and they'll gladly sacrifice their children not to. It's just the world we live in. Here's another one for this same case. This part I highlighted. This entire section here is blanked out, by the way, which is very interesting. But the part that's not blanked out is the part I highlighted. She's talking about the high school yearbook and things like that. These yearbooks, these school photographs that people let their children take, and then buy the pictures. No one questions what they do with these pictures afterwards. No one questions how long they keep these pictures. No one questions if these pictures are being distributed amongst whom. No one questions that. They just go along with it. Well, these pictures and things like that, it's a catalog for predators like Epstein and his associates. The perfect catalog. Parents are serving their children up to these predators in a perfect catalog with pictures of them so they can pick and choose potential targets. So, next one. For all the Trump supporters out there, I like to save the best for last. Pause and read. This is the same lady, if I'm not mistaken. She's talked to the FBI. Let's just read this. The interviewing agent asked blank to provide additional details regarding her first interaction with Donald Trump when she was approximately 13 to 15 years old in either New York or New Jersey, and while also in the company of Jeffrey Epstein. I guess they did used to hang out a lot back in the day, but no, it couldn't be, right? Blank clarified that when she previously said Trump struck her after she bit him on the blank, she provided further details that he pulled her hair, punched her on the side of her head, excuse me. So, whether you want to believe that or not, whether you think that's not sufficient evidence, that's up to you. I cannot make you believe. But I must remind you This was all in the Epstein files. This is all information that he collected and thought was important enough to save, keep hidden for a rainy day. So I just think that's something to think about. It's called blackmail for a reason. You can't blackmail someone with information we both know is a lie. Then you have no real power. And I think it's important that we need to believe victims. Because if this was your daughter, your sister, your mother trying to seek justice, you'd feel a completely different way. So that's just something to think about. Here's another one. Pause and read. I'm just going to read this highlighted bit. The agent also explained why they wished to keep the fourth interview focused on abuse and endured at the hands of individuals associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Blank previously mentioned she had sexual contact with current U.S. President Donald Trump while she was a minor. She previously explained the contact was facilitated through her association with Epstein. Blank was asked whether she felt comfortable detailing her contact with Trump. Blank again asked what the point would be of providing the information at this point in her life when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it. The agents asked Blank to go home, take as much time as she needed to think about speaking with the agents further. Blank agreed, and the interview ended. So as I said before, I'm inclined to believe the victims. As she just said right here, what's the point of bringing it up if nothing could be done about it? She clearly wasn't looking for money. She wasn't looking to smear his name. Nothing that no one hasn't already said before. People just don't care. So what would be the point of bringing his name up? He still became president, even after the countless weird things he said about his own daughter. And so, just food for thought. Okay. So, here's another one I thought was interesting. Apparently, Epstein had a previous suicide attempt on his life. You'd think they wouldn't put him back in the same cell to, give him the opportunity to do that again, right? So if you look up Epstein's information, it says he's 6 foot. If you look here in this cell, and I'm sure some of you may know people that have been in a cell like this, there's not enough room for a 6 foot tall person to hang themselves. It's just not possible. He was too tall. There's not enough room. Which I'm sorry that it's tilted, but just turn your head and look. It's just not enough room. It's not physically possible. Where would he? Just look at the pictures they're showing, and tell me where would it be possible to hang anything to support a 6 foot tall man in this small cell? Where could he hang himself and suffocate himself and die? It's just not possible. Epstein is still alive, whether you want to believe it or not. But we're going to be wrapping this up here soon. Here's another one. I received information about a potential new minor victim of Epstein, Maxwell, and Leon Black, such that I think the targets would be separate female trafficker in Black. Well, here's Leon Black for, all you people that are wondering who that is, which I don't know if he's in jail. Look at that net worth. Wow. There seems to be a connection with people with all this money, Epstein, and kids. How strange. Very strange. Yes, me. some more information. I haven't really got the chance to decipher all of this, so pause and read as needed. And whether you believe this is AI or fake, a lot of these have the file numbers on them. You can go look them up for yourself. Go to the website, do your own research. Some more. This one I highlighted. One original SD card, one Blu-ray containing FLIR aerial surveillance footage of Bradford, New Hampshire. So here's Bradford. If you live in Bradford, New Hampshire, your area was under surveillance for some reason. So, oh, designer babies. Before we get into designer babies, though, okay. So before we start talk about designer babies, we have to understand one thing about Epstein. They're going to constantly show you his crimes against children. And that is extremely important. I'm not trying to discredit that or make it seem like it's not important. I am just saying there is far more to this entire situation than that. That aspect is the most disgusting part, and that makes me angry. I'm just saying this is a very multi-layered situation. So, as we can see here, Epstein was talking to J.E.E. Vacation. Jeffrey Epstein evacuation? Anyway, so it says agenda, designer babies, structuring, finance, privacy, project goals, feasible outcomes, and timelines. Out of all these, that's the one that interests me the most. So I've been hearing some things. People feel like the world has just changed and people's memories of certain things aren't what they remembered it as being, and just there's a lot of weird things going on with the world, Just a theory, but there is a possibility that CERN, look that up. It's a research science experimental group in Europe. CERN, CERN. There is a possibility that either CERN or whatever Epstein was up to, whatever, did an experiment that changed the timeline that we were previously on and switched us to something far worse. So, but back to the designer baby part. Okay. Sounds like you could be the first investor as long as absolute anonymity is kept. I have always envisioned there would be anonymity requirements about babies. We can't publicly identify who these are or their parents or benefactors. It would brand the child as essentially and sadly a freak for life in the media. So essentially what they're saying is these cloned created humans are soulless. That's my interpretation of that. That's why it says essentially and sadly, because they're sad about that, which a normal person wouldn't be sad that a fake human doesn't have a soul because it's fake. It's a fake human being. It's not natural. It's a perversion of life. So we'll continue. So I'd always assumed the investor would need absolute anonymity for these kids, for these kinds of products. So the financial structure needs to be designed with these details in mind. Secrecy is very important to organizations like this, because as I said before, with the very first image I showed, the bottom right hand corner, if people knew the truth on who these people are, how they were made, that new star that everybody loves that just seemed to come out of nowhere and can dance so good and sing so good, and it just seems like their aura is magnetic. Well, yeah, because that person was most likely created in a lab. A lot of these actors and musicians and politicians are actors, agents, fake people, not even human. And that's the truth. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. There's still thousands and thousands of files that I haven't looked through, and probably more that they're hiding. But we have to understand, Epstein had his hand in everything. He was involved in human experimentation, gene splicing, child abuse, child sacrificing, satanic worship, time travel. People knew the truth. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Like I said, this is the first time I'm doing content like this, and I hope people will receive this well and spread the word, because people deserve to know the truth. Thank you all for listening.